Hi, everyone. Hello. Hello. I'm stealing 15 seconds from the clock. This is Princess Steps, Fall 2022, Week 10. And I have Whitney Lundy, registered dietitian, is our guest speaker tonight, talking about nutrition. And just a recap of a few things briefly, and that is, well, first of all, congratulations to some of the people who actually did Portland as part of their LSD, long slow distance, on their way to a 50K. Anyway, a few reminders. Conversation pace still applies. We've talked about that a lot. Princess Steps, good form. Don't forget about that. Keep working at it. Also, the Princess Steps, the virtual Princess Steps 5K, 10K coming up. I see more of you registering. Thank you. And it's not too late. We'll be talking next week about accessories and goals. Where do we go from here? So with that, I'm going to have Whitney come up, unless there's any questions right now about anything so far. We're rounding down. This is week 10. After this, we have 2 more weeks. I will let you know that next week the format remains the same. On the final week, which is week 12, the celebration, the format does change. So those of you that have been here before, you know. Those of you that are new, pay attention, because part of it's weather dependent. If it's good weather, we'll go out to that amphitheater and get a group picture. If it's not good weather, we'll get the group picture in here, and then we'll go out to the park and do the walk run first, and then we'll come back here to have a celebration. And that's where we're going to do some raffles of shoes and other things. So the format, just keep in mind, the format does kind of flip on the final night. Okay, so Whitney, come on up.
Hiya.
This is Whitney, and for those of you out there, Whitney is no stranger to the clinic. She's been a leader many times, and I'm very proud of her and very honored to have her with us, because she knows about all of you.
Well, if I can figure out the neat thing, I'll do that.
Yes.
Real quick, can I just get a show of hands of people who have not heard me speak before? Awesome. Okay. So my name is Whitney. I am a registered dietitian. I specialize in eating disorders and disordered eating. So tonight, I'm hoping, so on the email update, Susan included an outline and then a little handout on exercise nutrition. So if you have that, if there's something that you don't quite hear, take a look at that outline. That's really what I'm working off of tonight. I am going to try to get through all of this by 7:15 or by 6:45. So if there's something that you don't quite catch everything and you're like, I kind of missed this, you guys can just email me. I'm happy to answer questions outside of the talk as well. So just to put that out there. So I'm going to start by just giving a quick rundown of why diets don't work for the majority of us. I'm going to talk about some very basic nutrition education that I think everybody needs. I'm then going to talk about like what healthy eating actually looks like. We're going to do a few tips on things that you, like areas you can get started if you feel like you want to make some changes. And then I'll give a brief overview of some real basic exercise nutrition for everybody. So I always like to start by just reminding everybody that you don't owe anybody a weight loss journey, okay? The pursuit of thinness and the pursuit of health are not the same thing. Yeah, that's pretty much it. You guys are awesome the way you are, and you don't have to be on a weight loss journey ever to be healthy. So why don't diets work for the majority of us? The first reason is because of the diet industry. Okay? It is a $71 billion industry, And if diets were designed to actually be sustainable and effective over the long term, it wouldn't be a $71 billion industry, okay? So that's reason number one. Reason number two is something that we call set point theory, okay? So by the time we're born, we are each already kind of programmed with a set point weight range that we're going to hit by about our mid-20s, okay? Every time we put ourselves into a state of restriction, engage in dieting behaviors, etc., what happens is we freak out survival brain, okay? So we've got this little survival brain back here. Anthropologically speaking, we're simply not meant to be losing significant amounts of weight because it's always been a threat to survival, okay? So we've got little survival brain back here to help protect us against that, okay? So we lose a bunch of weight or we lose weight rapidly, we freak little survival brain out, and it actually recalibrates our set point range a little bit higher. Okay? That actually triggers a bunch of metabolic processes within the body as the body now tries to actually reach that higher, safer weight. Brain goes, oh my God, I saved us. We say, oh my God, I'm a failure. We look for the next diet and we kind of put ourselves onto this path of weight cycling, right? Weight cycling actually poses quite a few health risks, okay? And that includes an increased risk of type 2 diabetes, lipid disorders, coronary artery disease, and in postmenopausal women specifically, regardless of weight, it actually increases our risk of sudden cardiac death. So that's why I don't like diets. That's why I ask people to try to not diet. What does sustainable healthy eating actually look like? It's actually much simpler than the diets that we're sold, okay? So we really kind of have people put things into like two categories. We have like a limit, notice I didn't say eliminate, but a limit, and then an emphasize, okay? So in the limit category are going to be the things that you typically expect. Fast food, fried food, fatty animal products, pastries, chips and crackers, let's see, sugar sweetened beverages, diet beverages, energy drinks, alcoholic beverages, okay? We don't have to eliminate any of these. We're just encouraging people to focus on limiting them, okay? And instead, we ask people to emphasize things like water, fruits and vegetables, healthy fats like nuts, seeds, fatty fish, avocados, avocado oil, olive oil, okay? We consider these all to be nice, healthy fats. We also want people to emphasize things like beans, peas, lentils, and whole grains. And we want people to emphasize the plant-based and the leaner proteins. So tofu, tempeh, edamame, again, fish, lean poultry, occasionally extra lean cuts of beef. Okay? So if you just kind of take those two lists and you decide to just kind of start there, that's always a fantastic launching point. Okay? It really does not need to start any more complex than that. Okay? Who here remembers the whole anti-fat fad of the 90s? Yeah, okay, yeah, right, where it was like low fat, light, non-fat, lean potato chips, anybody? And then, thank you science, we learned that we actually do need fat in the diet, right? That's carbohydrates now, okay? Carbohydrates have really kind of been demonized now for several years. They really are important, you guys, okay? So this, I'm gonna take like 2 minutes here to like make a case for like all three of our macronutrients, okay? So we need carbohydrate, we need protein, and we need fat. And we actually need them in a tighter ratio than what most fad diets are actually selling, okay? So if we're looking at it from a calorie perspective, we want about half of our day's calories to come from carbohydrate. That's how important they are, okay? We want about 1/4 to 1/3 of our daily calories to come from fat, and then the remainder from protein, okay? So it's really not that big of a spread, okay? Our body's preferred fuel source is glucose. Our brain's only fuel source is glucose. Your brain actually accounts for 1/5 of your daily energy needs, okay? Our bodies run most efficiently when we let them get their energy from carbohydrate, okay? It can be refined carbohydrate, it can be complex carbohydrate. but our bodies run most efficiently when we're getting our energy from those carbohydrates, okay? One of the things that a lot of the diets right now are capitalizing on is this idea of efficiency, okay? Like if we make something less efficient, then our body has to work harder, right? And therefore we're like burning more calories as our body's doing it. And I'm strongly encouraging people to leave that concept for your workouts and not for like essential survival functions, okay? Like in that case, we do really want to let the body be most efficient, okay? The body certainly can use protein and fat as an energy source. If we ask it to do that, then we don't have that protein or that fat for all of their vital functions that carbs can't do, okay? So we really want to let carbohydrates be our energy source. The other reason we want carbs is because of fiber. Okay? We can only get fiber from our plants. We can't get it from animal sources. Fiber is absolutely critical in our diet, okay? Fiber actually helps to like stabilize our glucose, our blood glucose. It helps to protect against insulin resistance. It also helps to like reduce inflammatory response within the body, helps to stabilize cholesterol levels, and it helps to protect against coronary artery disease. And we think it also helps to protect against colorectal cancer, okay? So we can only get fiber from our carbohydrate sources, okay? So that's my case for carbs right now. Like I said, protein and fat, also really important. When we eat protein, it gets broken down into its little amino acid components, and those get shuttled off to do a bunch of stuff. That includes things like tissue maintenance and repair, hormone regulation, storage and transport of various molecules like iron and oxygen. Those amino acids are also used in antibody formation for our immune system. And kind of final fun fact about proteins, we have tons of chemical reactions that are taking place within our body constantly. The vast majority of these chemical reactions are enzyme driven, meaning they require a little enzyme for that chemical reaction to start. And those enzymes are actually made of protein, okay? So protein has a bunch of essential functions within the body. We want to let protein be accessible for those functions. Okay? Fat is also important. I'm glad we're no longer in the 90s for that reason. When we take in fat, that little fat molecule, it kind of looks like a little E with like these wiggly little horizontal lines, okay? So this is our little glycerol backbone. It gets cleaved off, it goes away and gets converted into a little tiny amount of energy. But these fatty acid side chains, they get shuttled off and they're used in things like, they help with like the production and regulation of our sex hormones. They're involved in like central nervous system function, blood clotting, organ insulation, core temperature regulation, vitamin absorption. So vitamins A, D, E, and K actually require some fat for best absorption and utilization. Okay? So all three macronutrients truly are important. We want to try to let them do their jobs as efficiently as possible. Where do fruits and vegetables fit in? Fruits and veggies are antioxidant rich. And what that means is within the body, they actually have an anti-inflammatory quality to them. So they help to like mitigate disease and prevent disease, ultimately supporting immune function. Okay? Those are the reasons that we advocate for fruits and veggies within the diet. We don't advocate for them as a weight loss hack. Okay? So if you feel like you want to make some changes, where do you start? What I suggest is take a week and just write down everything you eat and drink. Don't measure, don't weigh, don't try to count calories. You're just looking at the what and the when, okay? Write everything down as you move through the week. As you go, don't try to make any judgments, don't do any interpretations, you're just writing things down, okay? As you do that, a couple things to also make note of. When during the day are you hungry? When and how often are you feeling overly full? Okay. Is there a particular time of day where you notice an energy dip? Okay. Is there a particular food that you're often craving and you're trying to avoid, write down what that food is when you're craving it, okay, so that you have some idea. At the end of the week, you're going to sit down with everything that you've written down, okay, and you're going to look at it as objectively as possible. If you notice that you're actually kind of judging yourself for choices throughout the week, check it, right? It's always, that judgment's always going to be there. Right now, we're just looking at this objectively, okay? What you're looking for. How often did you eat out? Okay? How often did you choose like fatty foods, heavily sauced foods, or similarly kind of like heavy foods, okay? What did your consumption of like alcoholic beverages and sugar sweetened beverages look like over the week, okay? Another big one that I ask people to pay attention to is obviously, how often were you feeling overly full or unsatisfied after a meal, okay? And then right now, probably the most popular one that I'm asking people to pay attention to is, what did your carbohydrate intake look like over the course of a given day? Because right now, what we're seeing is a bunch of people who are trying to be good, and they're limiting or completely restricting their carbohydrates throughout the course of their workday. And then they get home in the evening and they feel like they're binging on carbs, right? That's a very telling pattern. So these are some of the things that we encourage you to look at. Once you've done that, pick one or two things that you want to focus on initially. No more than that. You can start with like the couple easiest things you think are there to address, or you can pick the thing that you think is most concerning, okay? But that's how we kind of decide, oh, where am I starting? If you don't want to do that, and instead you just kind of want more specific advice, I have like 6 quick things that we typically encourage people to first focus on. So the first one, I'm going to say it again. Please bring carbohydrates back into your day. Please distribute them through all of your meals and snacks. Please trust me on this one. If you are somebody who is really hesitant to do this, you absolutely can email me and I will offer additional education and guidance on this. Your brain and your body will thank you. Okay, so that's number 1. Please bring carbs back in. Okay. Number 2 is eat when you're hungry. Okay. A lot of us have actually trained ourselves to ignore our hunger cues, right? Because it's like we're hearing about like intermittent fasting and meal timing, or you know, we don't want to eat in the break room where other people might judge us. So we teach ourselves how to ignore those hunger cues. Problem is, that freaks out little survival brain back there. Our body doesn't run as efficiently, okay? So you want to pay attention to hunger cues. That might be a growling stomach. It might just be kind of a general sensation of like emptiness, but it can also be things like irritability, brain fog, and one of the big ones actually is if you notice that your thoughts are increasingly turning to food, it's actually a hunger cue. Okay.
Can it be dehydrated? Can it be that you're thirsty?
Most of the time, it's that somebody needs food. Yeah. Usually, that's so. This idea of like, oh, start with water. You're probably just thirsty, is actually a very well-established kind of diet hack. So we can also get fluid from the foods that we eat. So you could certainly have a little bit of water. Chances are pretty good that you also need a little bit of food. The third one is please stop telling yourself that you can't or shouldn't have a particular food. Okay? A lot of people tell me that they can't be trusted around a specific food or a specific food group. What you actually want to do is you want to bring it into your day in small portions and frequently, okay? So if you've heard me speak before, you've heard me talk about Oreos. So let's say you're somebody who feels like you can't be trusted around Oreos. You're actually going to go ahead and you're going to have 1 or 2 Oreos at every single meal and snack, okay? And you're going to do this for 2 or 3 weeks. And every time you do it, when you finish that meal or snack, you're going to go brush your teeth. And you're going to say, I get to have this again in just a couple hours. Okay. What that does is, 1, it gets your brain to actually trust that that food is not going anywhere, okay? Meaning we don't have to consume all of it in a single sitting. It does take time for your brain to trust that, okay? Yes, It takes time for your brain to trust that. That's why I say 2 to 3 weeks. Okay? No matter what, I don't care how many Oreos you eat at breakfast, you are still going to have 1 or 2 Oreos at lunch. You have to do it for this process to work. Okay? So 1, we have to get our brain to trust that food is not going anywhere. Okay? The other thing that we're doing during that time, when we're actually having it with meals and snacks, is we're putting that high value food on the same plane as every other food we're eating. So it's no longer actually a high value food, okay? If you can actually just trust that process, what happens over the course of a few weeks is all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, an Oreo. I mean, it's good, I don't need it, okay? So I see that one a lot. That's how I suggest people work on it. The 4th one is, if you often feel overly full after a meal. Okay? This is very common at dinner. Usually it's very common at dinner because we haven't had enough to eat during the day. Okay? But if there's a particular meal where you tend to feel overly full, what I want you to do is go ahead and just serve your plate as you normally would, and then you're going to set about 1/3-ish of it aside. Okay? If you have other people in the house, if you have family, you can label it. You can announce to everybody that that is mine, do not touch it, whatever you do, but that is yours, okay? You sit down with that slightly smaller portion of food, go ahead and enjoy it, okay? Pay attention to it. When you finish it, give yourself 5-10 minutes, okay? Let your brain catch up to your stomach. Then, if you still want it, or if you're still hungry, go back for more, okay? So that's how we actually get the brain accustomed to slightly smaller portions. Notice I'm not saying like, use a little tea saucer and dish up like a 1/4 cup, right? Like we're just talking about very modestly shrinking those portions if we're oftentimes overly full after dinner, okay? So it gets your brain used to seeing smaller portions on the plate without instilling that restrictive mindset of this is all I get, I can't have any more. And if anybody, real quick, if anybody here grew up in a food insecure environment or grew up in a household with lots of siblings and it felt like there was this competition for food at the dinner table, okay, you carry that with you through adulthood, okay? So this is one of the things that we can actually do to help calm the brain around that kind of childhood survival tactic, okay? The 5th is pay attention to what actually feels good in your body, okay? There are limitless, healthiest options for breakfast out there. Me personally, a lot of them just do not feel good in my body at 7 o'clock in the morning, right? So this goes for everybody. There are going to be foods that feel really good in your body that maybe somebody else can't tolerate. Gluten is a fantastic example of this one. Not everybody's gluten intolerant. Not everybody has celiac disease. Gluten isn't evil. Some of us can tolerate it just fine. For people who can't, yes, please avoid it as much as you can. For people who can process it just fine, please include it. It can be a fantastic whole grain. Okay? So if you're paying attention to what actually feels good in your body, then what that means is you're actually starting to really pay attention to your own body's cues, and it becomes easier for you to eat amounts of food that feel more comfortable in your body. It helps you just kind of dial in to the selection of foods and meal timing that just feels most comfortable for your body. Your body runs more efficiently that way. Your brain calms down. Okay? The last one is turn off the TV, put your phone aside, just focus on the food. Okay? Your brain is looking for multi-sensory engagement when you sit down to a meal. Okay? If we are distracted with a screen, then our brain is focused on that. It's not focused on the meal in front of us. We'll finish that meal, and our brain is like, hold up a second. I thought we were going to sit down to eat. I want in on the experience now, right? And we'll be full, but we find ourselves going back to the kitchen to get more. Okay? If we put our screens away and we actually focus on the food, then we're far more likely to eat an amount that feels comfortable in that moment. Just a couple minutes on some exercise nutrition. This really does apply for most workouts shorter than 90 minutes. And there is a reason for that 90-minute cutoff. Once we kind of exceed that 90-minute mark, you really are going to require some nutrition during that workout. That's going to be more tailored to the type of activity you're doing, the intensity, the duration. That's why I didn't include any of it here. But Susan, I want to come back to the wall. So don't let me forget, please. So pre-workout. We work out to improve our cardiovascular endurance. We work out to improve our bone density. We work out to improve our muscle mass, which is super critical as we age. And we work out to benefit our mental health. I really hope that nobody is working out for weight loss, because when weight loss doesn't happen, we become super resentful of the activities we're doing and we stop. Okay? So there are better reasons to work out. When we're working out, we want to do everything we can to support our bodies. Okay? So please make sure that you've had 2 to 4 hours, you've had a meal 2 to 4 hours before you work out. It's a little different for people who work out in the morning, but in general, you want to have just a standard meal 2 to 4 hours before your workout. Do keep it kind of lower in fat, and I'll explain why in a second, okay? If you're about an hour-ish from your workout and you notice that you're hungry or it's been quite a while since your last meal, go ahead and have a light snack. Okay? We want this to be carbohydrate based. We want it to be low fiber and low fat. Fat and fiber actually slow down the digestion process. Not a bad thing, not super helpful if we're counting on that glucose to help fuel our workout. Okay? Fat and fiber also can lead to digestive upset. That's never fun, particularly if it's like your long run or walk. Okay? So some examples of this are going to be like granola bar, low-fat Greek yogurt, dried fruit and a tiny handful of nuts, just something nice and simple. Okay? When we get to post-workout, this is actually more critical even than the pre-workout most of the time. Okay? So when we are doing aerobic activity, for the first 30-ish minutes, our body's just using easily accessible glucose within the bloodstream. Okay? After about 30 minutes, we've used that up, so then the body taps into what's called our glycogen stores. And that's like a medium-term storage of glucose. Okay? That's found in some of our skeletal muscles and our liver. That glycogen storage is going to last for about 45 minutes, depending upon how well replenished it was going into the workout. So when we finish a workout, our glycogen stores are depleted. Okay? What we want to do, we want to try to refuel within 30 to 60 minutes of finishing our workout. That's just kind of like an optimal window. Okay? We're aiming for 40 to 80 grams of carbs, 20 to 30 grams of protein. On the exercise nutrition handout that was included in the email, at the bottom, there are I think half a dozen examples of food combinations that do hit that 40 to 80 grams of carbs and 20 to 30 grams of protein. Okay? We found out that what's really cool is if we can hit those ranges within that hour, then the body actually takes all of that glucose and uses it to replenish our glycogen stores for the next day's workout. And with that 20 to 30 grams of protein, as long as we've got those carbs on board, it actually helps the brain. It signals a transition from muscle breakdown to muscle repair. So we start that building up process faster. Okay? Hydration. Just hydrate through the day, please. You don't want to chug water right before a workout. When we're talking about post-workout hydration, we're looking to we're replacing about 125 to 150% of fluid lost during a workout. How do we determine that? You can weigh yourself unclothed before and after a workout. The ounces lost on the scale tells you how many ounces of fluid you lost. You're going to do 125 to 150% of that. Now, if you are somebody who cannot step on a scale and respond neutrally to what you are seeing, please don't do this. And I mean this with full sincerity. The vast majority, all of my clients and the vast majority of women I know cannot step on a scale and not internalize that number in some way. It usually will impact the day, right? So instead what you can do is just use urine color as a sign of hydration status. We're just looking for near colorless, okay? Not completely clear, not completely colorless, just near colorless, okay? If it's darker, drink some more water. Quick recap. Please don't diet. Please don't diet. Please add carbohydrates back into your day. Okay? Pay attention to what actually feels good in your body. And please make sure that you're actually fueling yourself before and after workouts so that you're actually improving from a fitness perspective. And if anybody has questions, you can always reach out to me. Thanks.
Awesome.
3 seconds. Oh, yes. So on that nutrition handout, there are some very specific numbers in terms of like electrolyte replenishment. Okay, that is like gold standard vacuum scenario. Any of the products that Gallagher's carries will meet your needs. Okay, so and like when it comes to that wall, it is largely based upon preference between like the texture or mouthfeel of what you like, right? Like the consistency, all of that good stuff, ease of use, and John and Susan, they know their products. They can absolutely help you when you're looking for pre, during, and post-workout convenient fuels. Okay, but any of those work. Any of them work.
Thank you. That's so awesome. Okay, and for those of you that are out there in worldwide, whatever, not here, the 2 handouts that Whitney was referencing are on accessible as, the complete handouts are accessible as links on this week's update. So check those out. And what an honor and an awesome gift and offer that Whitney has given to you, that if you have a question, you can contact her. And her contact information is also on the update. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
that's
just
amazing.
Please let me know that you're from Women's Clinic.
But-
It just kind of helps me out. Nobody
Yeah,
wants to respond.
perks.